All right, everyone, we might as well get started. Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Gunn, and I am the coordinator of digital scholarship at Catholic University of America Libraries. I am joined by my colleague, Michaela Champion, one of our graduate library pre-professionals who will be monitoring the chat for any questions. This workshop is being recorded, and it will be made available at a later date along with the slides. Now let's get started. All right. So I just wanted to do a special shout out to Dr. Sarah Catchley of the Gale Digital Scholar Lab, who's been gracious enough to help library staff get up to speed on the lab. She's also kindly given permission to use a number of the slides that I'm using here today. So one of the nice features of the lab is that there is a robust support for researchers, teachers, students if they have specific questions. The researcher need not feel abandoned when they're beginning their research. I should mention that I am also available for consultations as well. So lots of help available out there. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you a quick overview of the lab to provide the proper context, the factors to consider when working on a project. And then we'll get into the lab and I'll demonstrate some features specifically on building a data set today. We will have future workshops on cleaning the data set. That'll be on November 4th, and we'll be also analyzing the data set on November 11th. So I really wanted to break it down and show you some specifics throughout the research process. Before we can do that, some of you may be quite new to all of this. So I thought it might be beneficial just to do a quick overview of what the lab is and what it does and what it can't do, that sort of thing. So the lab was designed for faculty and students to begin doing research in text mining. The lab is a convergence of thousands of documents, text mining techniques, and best practices in the digital humanities. So I love the way it comes together. The advantages of the lab include saving the researcher time in collecting documents. And if you've ever done sort of project like this, it can be quite arduous and time-consuming task just bringing the documentations together. Performing basic analysis without having to learn program coding or using the command line. That's another advantage of the lab. And then the lab also guides you on what you need to consider when doing text mining. So if looking at the slide here, just to point out some of the features. So you have, it's very much cloud-based, so you don't have to save anything on your laptop. You can save all your material and your data sets and that on their website. You're working with a lot of their primary sources. You can also bring in your own sources if you want. We'll talk about that in a bit. Our primary sources are confined, if you will, by what Catholic University has purchased, our library has purchased. If you're at another institution, they will probably have purchased different data sets in that. So something to keep in mind. There's 6 graphic user interface based open source tools for text analysis. I'll briefly show them and that's it. That's for a later workshop. There's an integrated learning center. They have videos, they have text documents that explain how to do things and that. So they really do have a lot of ways of helping you out. And a lot of the pages, they'll have a video right on there saying, oh, you want to build a data set? Here, watch this video for a couple minutes and give you a sense of that. They also have text cleaning is integrated into the platform, which is very useful. One of the nice things about the lab is you don't have to use the entire lab. You can use only portions of it. So building a data set, cleaning a data set, analyzing the data set, you can do these sorts of things separately or all together within the lab. It doesn't matter. You can also download a lot of the documentation, the visualization, statistical data, and other stuff as well. So, and you can use that material in other tools. whatever it is that you're going to be using. So it's very useful in that regard. So there are number of outputs that you can work with. These techniques have been around for a while, and that's why they focused on them. So these are the big six, if you will. They're divided into, for people who are interested in getting started in text mining, these are good places to start. On teachers who want to begin teaching these techniques to students, these are, again, good techniques to begin with. So you sort of dipping your toes into digital scholarship for the first time is a very good way to go. And they are going to be adding more tools in the future, apparently. So we'll have to stay tuned there. So basically, there's two general areas. There's quantitative analyses and there's qualitative analyses. You can do numerical accounts, for example, n-grams. So how many times the word is present? Does it correlate with other words? Stuff like that. You have parts of speech that are analyzed through tagging, function that you can do. They also have named entity recognition. So how many names, how often is a name mentioned in a particular text or across several texts? On the other side, you have qualitative analysis. So if you wanted to look at, say, sentiment analysis, you're looking at negative or positive words that are present within a documentation. Another method you have is clustering, which allows a researcher to bring their statistical knowledge to analyzing a document set. And then there's also topic modeling, which allows the user to lump all the words in a data set into a list of 10 or so topics to understand what the document is about. So if you're not too sure about a set of documents or one document, you can run topic modeling, and that will give you a really quick idea of what the main topics are and whether that is actually relevant to any further research that you want to do. So it could be a preliminary tool before you even start building your collection. So that's something to think about as well. There's an extensive literatures on each of these methods out there, and your research will probably use a number of these methods, frankly. Excuse me. So looking at the big picture, you're looking at your project. So what are you going to be doing with your project? So you're going to be beginning with a research question. This is going to lead to other research questions. So there's very much a weird process that's going on here. The process is cyclical and will take most of your time before you get to interpret your results. So you're going to be building at the beginning, and you're going to be refining the attributes of the documents that you want. You want to be evaluating those results, and if necessary, redoing the search. So you can examine OCR results, and if necessary, exclude some documents that, say, for example, have poor OCR. So the next main area is cleaning, and that's where you shift to clean the OCR and the attributes involved with that. That'll be in a couple of weeks. We'll also be possibly spend a little bit of time using tools, not in the Gale lab, but just to demonstrate how you can go about cleaning material. Then last, you have, analyzing your data. So using the techniques described before, it's important to look at the complete picture of your research project. So, for example, if you're examining the works of Jane Austen, a research question could be, how often do the words love and Mr. appear in the same sentence? So you would consider using the n-gram method to answer that. If you were interested in how the word love is used in a negative way, perhaps then sentiment analysis would be the proper method. So anyway, various different ways that you can use the tools and techniques depending upon what your research questions are. So the platform is geared towards supporting, oops. Let me go back to here. There we go. Can you see my notes or not?
You're good.
I'm good. Okay. So the platform is geared towards supporting teachers and students in the teaching and learning of digital tools. So research best practices as, let me say that again. The platform is geared towards supporting teachers and students in the teaching and learning of digital tools, research best practices, and a scaffolding approach to text mining. So lots of the tutorials and written guidelines as you walk through the process of creating a digital scholarship project are available to you. They also don't want to leave you hanging, like sort of scrambling around with your own data set and projects and that. So they do have sample projects that you can explore and work with and get a feel for the platform before you dive into your project. So here's a quick screenshot. So you have the ability to upload user content, which is really great. The files are confined to TXT files for the format. So perhaps that's a limiting factor, perhaps not. You can upload 10 megabytes at any one time, and you can upload multiple 10 megabyte blocks. So that is helpful. Those documents have to be in the TXT format. You can add your own content. You can build data sets with it. You can clean the data set and you can analyze it. So if you were working on a project where you need the data set clean, you can do something like that, come in, clean up your own data, put it up there, clean up your own data and take it out. And you just do that if you wanted to. You can combine your sets with Gale sets, and there are Gale primary sources components available for that as well. All right, so what we're going to do here, we're going to switch around a bit. We're actually going to go into the lab and have some fun. So I am going to put that down there. All right, so can you see the University Library's homepage?
Yeah, we can.
Good. All right, so where do you want to start here? Well, you can, best way to go is starting at libraries.catholic.edu. Well, this is a subscription database platform. So you're going to have to go through our COA portal in order to get at our at the platform. So on this main page here, you can go to Research Help, and you can just scroll down to Gale Digital Scholarship Lab. So feel free to do that now if you like. And we just scroll down here, and right down here, just out of page view, you have Access the Lab. So I'm going to click on that. And you should probably get a Cardinal login. If you're on campus, you may not, but if you do, that's good. So I'm going to log in. And this will be a main page here. So you're going to have, if you're coming in for the first time, you're going to have over here, login, create account. So if you're interested, go ahead and take a minute to create an account if you like. I am going to click on that login. It will give me this page right here. And you will sign in with your Google account. Your COA email is probably your best way to go. That's your Google account. And if everything has gone correctly, there'll be no sign-in account here. And at the top right-hand corner, you'll see my name signed in here. So that tells you that you're signed in. This is important because once you start doing searches and saving your searches, your documentation, that you're going to create a content set, you want to make sure that you don't lose any of it. So this is the way to go, so to speak. So let me show you around this page very quickly here. So one of the nice things I like is that they have a lot of helpful information here. So if you scroll down here, you have the three basic components of working within the Gale here: building, cleaning, and analyzing, and they all have, learn more about this step, and I'll take you to a different page with videos and stuff, and that can help you work through and get started. If you can scroll further down here, and they can show you what is available to you. Let me show you this right now. What texts are available? What do we have access to? See the available archives. I'm going to click on that. And we have 22 main archives is what they call them listed here. So, very general descriptions that you have here. If I decide to click, let me go click on this. It doesn't give you much more than search within the resource. So it's throwing you right in there right away. And I'm like, whoa, too much information here. It's too fast. I prefer to have them describing what this database is about. So if you do want to know more before you commit to American fiction from 1774 to 1920, you'll have to go back to our main page. I'm going to go back here to this page here. You can click on Datasets, and then just type in American fiction, and it'll tell you, we give you a nice little description of what it covers in that. And if I were to click on this, it gives you the description, more of a description here, and even more about this resource. Okay, so it's very good. Before you even start, is to know what's available, to what's in it, give you a good idea before you do a lot of the searching. So I like to point that out. All right, so we're going to go back here, and we're going to go back to this, and I'm just going to scroll down here very quickly, show you we have a lot of history stuff, a lot of political science. I love that fact that we have 18th century collections online and 19th century. So that makes our database, our platform quite robust. And we have lots and lots of 19th century US newspapers listed through here. So really quite excellent. Sabine Americana, History of the Americas, as well as particular newspaper collections. Some law, Sunday Times Historical Archive, the Times Digital. So you got a good cross section here, and then Women's Studies Archive. So I just like to point that out. You've got a lot of stuff, and you're searching across all of this as you build your content set. All right, so I'm going to go back up here to our main page here. All right, so we got a good idea of what we're doing here. So what we want to do is right up in the top right-hand corner here, we have a number of things here I want to point out. First thing is my content sets listed here. I'm not going to click on that just yet. You have build, clean, and analyze. So we're going to do build. So let's click on build. And here we have our beautiful page. Let's do right here. It looks so simple, doesn't it? But let's get into it. So it's good to come in with a good example here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a historical example here. I'm going to look at a Canadian historical event called the Northwest Rebellion of 1885. This is when the Métis and the First Nations fought against the Canadian government in Canada. What was known at the time was well known now as Saskatchewan, Alberta, and it happened over March to June in 1885. And the reason why Métis and the natives fought the Canadian government is because they didn't have political representation. So we're going to take a look at some of the documentation here. I'm not too sure. Is this the right place to go? Well, we can find out here. So I'm going to type in Northwest, and I'm going to type in rebellion. And I want to show you something here. I'm going to do Northwest Rebellion, and I'm going to just search that. And you'll notice right away, I have 425 results because I just used that. And I didn't even use it as a phrase. So if I put in quotation marks, I'll probably get something different. So I have 425 results. I went, oh, okay. I scroll through and I saw a lot regarding what I wanted, but not perfectly. There's a lot of misses there, if you will. So I noticed here that has Northwest Rebellion 1885. So I'm going to click on that. And that drops me down to 87 records. So much more accurate in that sense. Now I can always go back and take a look at those 232 if I want to expand my search. But right now, let's just work with this. So we could say, we can ask, what were the news reports of the rebellion, from March to June of that year? So, how were they reporting it as the events were unfolding? Would be an excellent way to take a look at this. So what I would like to do is go to relevance right here. And, I'm probably going to look at the oldest stuff first. There we go. And it reloads. Then I can take a look at the side here. This is where the metadata is located, this gray box. You can go through it and you can see, what the publication is, what the archive is here, what kind of content types. Here's a monograph. That's interesting. Doesn't list the dates, right? So you have 1885 for this North American publication. Here you have the archive listed for it as well. You have down here the Galveston Daily News. So you have an interesting cross-section of articles. One of the things, because this is a quote unquote Canadian topic, one further research question could be, how do you compare Canadian news events, newspaper events with American newspaper events, right? So if you have that question, you have to think, okay, well, how many Canadian newspapers are in this platform? There may not be too many, in which case you're going to have to do a search another way, external to the Gale platform, find those relevant articles, and then upload them in here so you can compare with the US paper report. So that's sort of one little side step of the project that you would have to consider. So looking at the metadata here, you get a quick sense of what's going there. And it is kind of, it tries to be as consistent as possible, but there are little gaps. And that probably possibly because there's no information available. You just don't know. All right, so if we're looking for, on the left-hand side here, we have the OCR, if you will. And I'm gonna click on this one here. It says OCR at 68%. Ugh. Yeah, I got through high school with 68%. Don't knock it. Anyway, let me click on that. And what it's gonna do, it's going to bring in the actual newspaper that you have. Now take a look at the OCR on the right. Or I show you the text. OCR confidence 68%. I can see why. Can you read that first line? I seriously could not. And most of it is kind of corrupted. Now, what if you feel that this is useful for you, that you still want it? Well, thankfully, they have the document listed right here, and you can expand. There we go, and bring it up here. You can visualize it. I can drag it over, and there we go. So you can see why it was kind of sketchy. It's just, just the way way microfilm is. So here it is, 15 mounted policemen reported to have been killed. And then you look at the first line, and say, oh, now I get it. And it's Winnipeg, Manitoba, and not Winnipego, Manitoba. So again, this is another feature when you're building your sets. You're going to have to do some preliminary cleaning of this. So before you do any type of analysis, you got to make sure it's clean. And before you can do the cleaning, you have to identify relevant sources and ask yourself, are they in fact usable? So here we have that as a good example. All right, so I'm going to go back. So we're back to our page here, publication dates, the oldest. Now, what we have on the right here is a whole bunch of ways that we can filter our results. And what we can do, so that since we're focusing more on newspaper reports, we can go to content type, and we can restrict it down to newspaper and periodicals if we so wanted to. And in fact, we can actually search within that if we wanted to. I'm not going to do that, but it shows you that you can have that option. So I'm going to cancel that. Now, let's say we like what we have here, the 87 results. So what we can do is we can go to, we want to keep them. So what we can do is we can add to a content set. So I'm going to click on that. And what I've got here is I've got a number of my sets that I've done with other projects. I also have Northwest Rebellion, which I was doing earlier this morning as an example. So what I want to do is create a new content type, and I can type whatever I want in here. So I'm going to go Northwest Rebellion 1885 redone. I can name whatever I want. So it tells you no documents were added. Well, thanks a lot. Good to know, right? So you don't want to leave and not have selected anything. So what you can do is you can select all right here. Or you can just scroll through the 87 and select what you want. What I can do is go back to add to content, and then I'm going to do redone. And there it goes. So I've added 87 there. Now let's say, for the sake of argument, that I had 425, and let's say I select them all. They have a limitation here. So you can select 100 and they'll give you the first 100, but you can also do select all and put it into that content set. So all of a sudden I've added a lot more. There you go. And you'll notice it tells you that it is in a particular folder listed right here. So that's quite useful. All right. Now, so the next step is and if you had not selected all 425, let me see if I can do this one. So if I wanted, say, I'm going through and I say, I don't want this particular one for whatever reason, I could select it and then I can remove it from the content set. And there it is. So now here's my list, my results, right? But if I want to look at my content sets, that's one way. I can look at my content sets up here, top right hand. And you'll notice I have my contents listed right here, and they tell me the number of documents, my content sets, and the number of documents. And they do put them in alphabetical order, just, So make sure you know what is it, how you named it. Otherwise, you'll be scrolling through a lot of sets. So let me go back here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the advanced search field right here. Oh, come back. All right. So it's known as the Northwest Rebellion, but it's also been known as the Riel Rebellion. Louis Riel was the leader of that, and he was eventually captured and hanged in 1885. His legacy has been controversial. He's been considered a traitor to Canada. He's also been considered a father of Confederation. So I think people are more gravitating towards the father of Confederation these days. So let me do this. So I want to do another search. And I'm going to look at Riel Rebellion. And maybe I'm going to look at it as a subject heading. So let me do this as a subject, and I'm going to do the search. And you're going to get a page like this on occasion where you get 0 hits. We searched 42 million documents and came up with butt kiss. So that does happen. My suggestion to you is when you do that, you may need to expand your search or use different search terms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to keyword, and I'm going to do search again, Riel Rebellion. Oh, good. We have success. We have 126 results. So that's quite excellent. And you go through here and you can see the search through here. Now, one of the nice features that I have noticed is that you can do a search and it will tell you. I'm wondering if I have a shot here. So I did this search, and if I'm lucky, no, it doesn't look like I'm going to be lucky. Well, I'll tell you this. If you do the search and this item is in one of your content sets, it will give you a little mark here saying you already have it in your content set. And that's very useful to have. That way you're not putting it in there again. You can scroll through it. So that's a feature that I really like, and it saves you from duplicating your efforts. All right, let's see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my content sets here. I want to get a little bit of deeper dive in here. So I'm going to pick our set here. So now I'm in our new content set, and this gives you an overview of what we have here. So overview, the documentation, what the source libraries are, and that it doesn't look too involved here. If you're worried about search history, this will be very helpful to you in that this will tell you the searches that we've done. and the results that you get from them. So if you can't remember exactly how you search something, this is one way that's very good in remembering. And then here we have Gale, the number of documents listed here. Oh, come back, which I'm not too sure why these two are selected and not the whole set. That seems very interesting to me. But anyway, you can have a list of documents throughout this, through this database, and you can data set, and you can scroll through them. Take a look. Now you can also, I'm going to go back here. I'm actually going to switch to the search I did earlier. All right, so we have Gale listed here. And here's a better representation of the 229 documents you have within here that you can use. So let's say I'm happy with this set. I've gone through it, I've vetted it. The OCR is pretty good, all that sort of stuff. Now what I can do is I can download it. So I can, up top right-hand corner here, you have download. So you can download the documents. I'm going to click on the documents. And what it'll do is it'll tell you what you can do here. So the download limit is 5,000 documents per session. So we're under 5,000, so we're okay. People think, well, I need more documents, nor that. But the Gale folks have mentioned that it's very rare for a researcher to need more than 10,000 documents to download at one time. So it's something that you should be mindful of, but it probably won't impact your research. So it tells you this, it's going to generate a zip file. It will take some time to do this, so you have to be patient. It'll also do some cleaning on it as well. So that's good and helpful things before you download it. If you click on download again, that's documents. If you want to do metadata, and first, I cannot figure out why it is not loading this. So this is another little thing I have, a little pet peeve, is that the metadata will tell you it'll only download a certain amount of material. The metadata, like document title, content type, document type, publication date, type, and place of publication, stuff like that, the basic things of that. And it'll do its best to put forth that metadata, but it's not perfect in that sense. And last, with the download option, you have learn more. So I'm just going to click on that very quickly. And this will take you to a helpful page. Oh, and here's the metadata that's listed here, the metadata fields that are listed. They'll give you a good idea. So like I said, they try to be very helpful when you're working through your project. Okay, so what we're going to do is now go back to build. Right, and what we can do at this point here, we've done the searching that, but we haven't uploaded any text here. So you can drag and drop particular texts and go from there. So I'm going to do that very quickly. There we go. And you'll notice it says successfully uploaded, and this is my little notes file. And at this point, you can add metadata manually if you so desire, document by document. That can be kind of cumbersome, or you can do something major like this using bulk here as a possible way, if you don't mind doing that. So you have a number of different ways that you can put material in there. And then you can add to the content set. And it'll say, which one do you want done to? I'm going to do 1885, this one here. And I've added that document to it. So now I can I'll now be able to use that, combine the material, and then search it as necessary. Okay, so that's basically a very quick run through. Let me do this. So that's the lab, at least from the building function set things. With regards to factors to consider, you have many questions that you should ask. So you should be mindful, looking at the scope of your content set. You want to be purposeful in building your set. What is your research question? What's the ultimate goal of your project? What sort of quantitative versus qualitative analyses are you going to use? Are you going to use all of them? Do you really need to use all of them? Or maybe one or two sufficient? With regards to the scope, the size, date range, how do you limit your content set? Is it by particular dates? How is your research topic and how does it extend over time? For example, that'd be a different way of going at it. Are you looking within one publication, or are you looking at several publications or several types of publications? These are different questions you need to ask. So I'd mentioned you could compare newspapers, Canadian and American newspapers, on what they said during the 1885 year on the Northwest Rebellion. You can look at your size. Again, 10,000 is the max, but this is rare to go above that in the lab. So, size does matter in this regard. So missing one text, mining one text, a novel like Moby Dick, for example, will be different than comparing several novels over a time period. So those are things you need to consider. Multiple sets. Do you have subsets, or do you group everything all together? Those are sorts of questions you need to ask. You are going to have to do reiteration. So you're going to have to redo your searches. Often because your research interests may change. Early in a search, you may find some interesting documents that bring up further research questions. So you're going to have to decide how you're going to handle those subsequent questions. There may be documents that are not relevant in your original set, so you may have to drop those or add some more material and that sort of thing. So Gale suggested some general topics, and there's many different kinds of research questions that you can ask out there. So, you can look at like, how was a topic or topics perceived at a particular time by different people? What do all types of documents have in common, for example? You can compare literature between different individuals or different genres, that sort of thing. And also look at particular names, and how they related to a particular event or another person or something like that. So you do have a lot of things like that you can do. So if I were to go back to my project here, and if I were to go to my content set, and I could just do you a very quick demonstration here. So if I click on this, so one way, if I were looking at newspapers, I can restrict that to newspapers. Content type, so I can go newspapers and periodicals, let's say. So if like I said, researching American and Canadian newspapers, I could limit it by that regard. And since we're looking at, we can confine it together and say, okay, how were the newspapers covering these events in real time? So I can go to say the publication date. And I noticed here, if you just type in 1885, it happened over March and June 1885, you'll get 0 hits. So what you have to do is you have to make sure that you put in everything. So I'm going to do that, 31 and 1885. And then once it's applied, you've got a list here. And the funny thing is, it doesn't tell you how many out of the 229 were limited. So that's our total data set, but these restrictions here don't tell you what else, what has been excluded. So it's kind of weird in that regard. So something to keep in mind, a little bit of a weird search interface there. All right, so at that point, this is the end of the presentation. So does anyone have any questions?
I had a question. Let me just turn my camera on. Hang on 1 second. Sorry about that. I've been eating lunch, so trying not to.
All right.
So, okay, can you see me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And I might have missed this as I was going in and out of a couple of other things, but the repository that you showed with all of the texts that were available, if I were to use those texts in my research and I was going to publish a paper, like it got reviewed as a manuscript and going to publish, is there some kind of a requirement in terms of either funding, in terms of how we got funding for this through the university, or a citation requirement as to how this works? Because I know I had to do that when I did an analysis of Frederick Douglass memoirs at UNC Chapel Hill. And I'm just wondering if there's something similar here.
Is there a way that you can cite this material? Is that what you're asking?
Requirement? I'm trying to understand if there's some kind of requirement.
You know, I don't know if there is a requirement, but I would think if you're publishing it in a particular journal, they probably would ask for more details. Where did you get the source material? And I would think that you would want to tell people where you got the source material as well.
Okay.
I don't believe you. I don't think. Let me finish. I don't think you will be able to share that data set.
Right.
I have doubts about that.
Yeah, that's not what I'm asking. I'm more asking about, like, if we were to indicate that on our manuscript, how do we cite this if we need to?
That's a good question. I could cop out and say, well, that's in a couple weeks' time. Come back in a couple weeks. I'm sure they do have a part on here, a place on here where you can cite it. Let me see if I can do this.
I mean, or you can just let me know if you find anything out. I don't want to take up everybody's time, but I was just curious because I know I've done that before with other data sources that I've curated.
Yeah, I didn't see anything when I was. I think it's further down the process is my inclination.
Okay.
So I can let me contact you off page and go from there.
Okay.
I would think there would be something there.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you're doing with these presentations. They're very helpful.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Thanks very much. Do we have any other further questions? right, well, if there's not any further questions, I just want to thank everyone for coming out. Oh, we have something in the chat. Oh, okay, thanks. Thanks, Ms. Pack. Thank you everyone for coming out, and once the recording is available, we'll send it out. Thank you very much. Have a great day.